Welcome to another edition of Knowledge Box Sessions. Today, we're going to be covering an amazing topic, how to calculate your personal self-worth. Today, we have two amazing speakers with us. We have Jackie Pennycook joining us from Meridian Credit Union. We also have Patrick Springer joining us from Airbnb. Yeah, we're going to get into this presentation today. I'm happy to have everyone join us, whether you're joining us live or you're checking us out on YouTube as well. So first off, we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Patrick. He's going to get into our first section of the presentation, which we've coined the psychology of success. And so he's going to be getting into some things in terms of just mindset, in terms of financial success and just career success as well. So let me go ahead and pass it over to Patrick, and I'm going to also pull up some photos for him. So give me one moment. I'm going to share the screen.
All right, I'll introduce myself real quick.
Okay.
So, hi to everyone who's watching this. Appreciate you all tuning in. Apologies if it's a little bit loud in my background. Funny enough, I am currently traveling right now. I'm in Toronto. Just got back from a quick little mini vacation I did, so I'm still stuck in the airport right now. But again, like I said, happy to be here. And funny enough, this is the topic that I was asked to come and speak on today. When Danny hit me up and asked me if I wanted to speak on financial wellness as it pertains to travel, I was super excited about this because, as he knows, I love to travel. Before moving back to the States last year, I lived overseas in Taiwan for the last 10 years. And before that, I lived in Indiana. So I haven't lived in my hometown of St. Louis in about 14, almost 15 years. So travel has always been something pretty near and dear to my heart. What I usually like to do is start by asking people who join these, like, just raise your hand if you have a passport. And then I'll tell the story about mine. So I graduated from college in 2011, and I did not have a passport. I was offered a job that same year to go teach out in Taiwan. Still didn't have my passport when I got the initial job offer. And to be completely honest, had no idea where Taiwan was. I'd only been in an airplane maybe 3 times my entire life before then. Once was a trip to Arkansas to go see my grandparents. The other time was a round trip plane ride to Texas as part of the swim team. So I was new to traveling. I was new to leaving the country because I had never done it before. But I took a chance, got my passport, moved overseas, planned on staying for 1 year, and that year ended up turning into a decade. I like to consider my time in Taiwan some of the most transformative times in my life. While I was over there, I traveled to about 50 different countries. I met countless friends, made lifelong partners, opened a business, changed my life. For me, growing up in North County, St. Louis, being able to travel internationally was never something that people really talked about. Honestly, leaving your city wasn't something that many people talked about either, unless it was taking a quick trip up to Chicago. When I say one of the best things that I had ever done was getting my passport and traveling out of the country. Sorry about that. Again, see, I'm in the airport right now. When I say getting my passport and leaving the country was one of the best things that I've ever done in my life, I'm not exaggerating. In this slideshow right now, you see pictures from the Olympics that I went to in 2012, did a massive Euro trip. I spent time in India, 6 weeks backpacking through cities that I'd only read about and seen in National Geographic books. I've been snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef. I've seen things that I never thought that I can imagine. My current job is working at Airbnb, where I work with the employees when it comes to supporting programs that help underrepresented groups get the representation that they need. So I chalk all of this up to say that, what you invest in yourself is just as important as the job that you take on. You spend a lot more time with yourself than you do at your 9 to 5, than you do at a job. And again, investing in travel was one of the best things that I could have done. I'm in a fraternity. One of my fraternity brothers always says, it's funny enough, he's a financial advisor. He says, invest in memories, not moments, right? And I take that to heart. I really do take that to heart. And I encourage anyone out there, travel, go see the world. Once you get out there, things are never as expensive as it seems. The initial investment that you put into getting your passport and getting the plane ticket is going to pay back 100-fold, just in the memories, the experiences, the people that you meet, um, and the stories that you get to tell. I have stories for days, and I know I could go on and on and on. And I know this is a brief session, um, but I think I might have time to tell you all one story. So, Danny, if you go to the next picture, there's one in particular that I want to find. This was a picture from the Great Barrier Reef. This was this was in Japan, at the aquarium where they have blue whales. This one is one of my favorite photos that I took in Halong Bay in Vietnam when I lived on a houseboat for a few weeks. But I think it might be this next one, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, all right. So this is probably one of my favorite pictures of all time. So like I said, I'll just give you all the short end of this story. But I took this during my time in Kenya. I was staying in a village just outside of the Masai Mara. So that's where, if you watch any Nat Geo videos, that's where you see the lions and, the Great Migration. So I was very fortunate enough at this time to be in Kenya during the Great Migration and staying in a village called Merrill. So again, it's about an hour and a half, I think, outside of Kenya, just outside the actual Masai Mara. So where the lions are, where, all the animals. And I stayed with this village, and the Maasai people are known for like jumping. So this is the tribes that wear, nomadic tribes that wear the bright red robes and wear these really vibrant garments. And they showed us essentially like the courting ritual, right? These men in this photo are all warriors, and they compete to see who can jump the highest, because who can jump the highest is the most athletic and the most likely to be married. So they told us this, but later on that night, we got to sit around with all the tribesmen, with the entire families, and they cooked for us. Um, I have this recording on my phone where the village chief just sat and talked to us for about 2 hours. So I have this 2-hour recording on my phone that I like to listen to every now and then. But he just spoke of how things were just so simple, how he loved being there, how they were offered to, do these big tours and do everything else, but they didn't want to get too commercialized. They wanted to make sure they were able to hold on to their culture. And as a Black person who travels, it's been really hard to find like a place where you belong, a place where you can consider home. And the thing that really stood out to me is when the chief looked at me, right? Me as someone who's traveled to all these places, who has looked for a second home. I have a tattoo on my arm. It's a sparrow because, it's a swallow. Sailors would get a swallow when they left their home. Swallows always return home. They get the second one once they find home. And the tribe leader looked at me and he's like, I can tell you've been looking for something. He's like, I don't know what it is, but I want you to know you can find it here because you found home. Right? And to me, that just stood out so much because in all the places that I've been traveling to, all the places that I wanted to see, I wanted to find home. I wanted to find a culture that accepted me, that looked like me, that sounded like me, that ate the same food that I like, that prepared things the same as me. And when I finally made it to this tiny village in Kenya, I really felt like I walked into a second home. And I know that if I never would have taken the time to invest in myself, invest in a passport, to take the risk and travel to all of these different places, I never would have found what I considered a second home, now a third home, fourth home, fifth home, and friends and family. So I say all this to say, it's important to be smart about what you invest in, about your money, about where you create assets, where you set down roots. But it's equally as important to give yourself the freedom to travel and to invest in yourself. I urge anyone now, if you are listening, if you do not have your passport, if it's within your means, go get it. Plan a trip. It doesn't have to be now, but make sure you take some time. Plan a trip. really invest in yourself, because it's going to be one of the best investments that you can make. So with that being said, I want to pass it over to Jackie. And again, thank you all so much for letting me be here to share a little bit of my story, and hopefully to encourage some other people to get out and to invest a little bit more in themselves, get your passport, go out and see the world. It's so worth it.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Patrick. Thank you so much. I know you passed into Jackie, but I just wanted to say thank you. That was beautiful. Well said.
I am so jealous. And thank you so much for passing it over. Hopefully, my piece of this net worth discussion will marry very well with yours. We can get you growing your net worth so that you can get out there, get traveling. But yeah, get your passport first, guys. So, hello, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here again. I can't wait to just get into one of my favorite topics, your net worth. So what is it? How do you calculate it? How can you make it work for you? Well, let's start by taking a look at the most extreme net worth calculations on the entire planet at this very second. Some of you may be familiar with, it's called the Forbes Real-Time Billionaires list. And it's really just something I look at once in a while when I want to dream about what I would do with $1 billion. So let me just bring up this page and I'll share my screen so we can peruse it together. Is that coming through, Danny? Okay, perfect. So I think you'll probably recognize some of the names listed. So let's take a look at the top 20. We've got Elon Musk at number 1, the Tesla king. We've got Bernard Arnault. He owns the mother company for Louis Vuitton, Moet Chandon, Hennessy, Tiffany's, Christian Dior, all told about 60 companies. So the man is living the life of luxury. We've got Jeff Bezos from Amazon fame, Bill Gates from Microsoft. Now you notice Gautam Adani and Mukesh Ambani are both, they've got their hands in all the cookie jars in India. And then we've got Larry Page, Sergey Brin, the founders of Google. We've got Warren Buffett, the investment guru. Larry Ellison created Oracle, which is like a ubiquitous software company. And if we scroll down to 11, Carlos Helú owns basically all the telecommunications in Mexico. Steve Ballmer was a CEO of Microsoft. Michael Bloomberg for his media company. Zhang Shanshan famously, made his billions selling water to the people of Hong Kong. Francoise Bettencourt from the L'Oreal family. Charles Koch, the Koch family, very controversial, made their money in oil and gas. And then you've got the Waltons, for the family that created Walmart. And then I think it's Amancio Ortega, the gentleman that owns Zara. And he just knocked Mark Zuckerberg right out of the top 20. Poor little billionaire. So billions and billions and billions of dollars in the hands of very few individuals. Trillions, really, when you add it up. You'll notice the top 20 list effective today is mainly composed of tech giants. You definitely couldn't say that 3 decades ago. So in 1990, billionaires came from finance, a lot from media, from real estate, one guy from the cruise ship industry, movie theaters, coal, and actually 7 out of the top 20 were inheritance. So there is a special entry from the 1990 list that I loved, written out as William Henry Gates III. He was 34 years young in 1990. And also Henry Ross Perot, who tried to run for president against Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr. Didn't work out so well. So despite these massive changes, here, I'll stop. We can go back to the slideshow. Despite these massive changes in the billionaires list over the past 3 decades, you notice there's still, frankly, a lack of diversity no matter which year you're looking at. I must admit, I have hope since wealth seems to change hands so quickly, but I'd like to see a little more flavor making the list in the coming years. And as an aside, you can see I've really singled out Giovanni Ferrero. We're talking about the owner of Ferrero Rocher, you know, the chocolates that you get from Shoppers or Walmart or Rexall when you're late to a party and don't want to show up empty-handed. So to be able to make your money from chocolate is truly awe-inspiring for me. I also didn't realize that they own Nutella, Kinder, Tic Tac, and they just bought out Nestle. So Ferrero really runs the candy game. Less inspiring is the fact that his grandfather started the company, but I do love the fact that he's a writer and he's published 8 books. So he's one of my favorites. So for those of us without gigantic inheritances or famous grandparents, we're going to have to look at the net worth calculations a little differently. So let's break it down. If we could go to the next slide and talk about my favorite side of the net worth statement, your assets, the things you own. So assets can be split further into 2 categories. We've got liquid and illiquid assets. So liquid assets are the things you can cash quickly if needed. They can be accessed and used immediately or very quickly. I'm talking about the balances in your checking account, your savings account, maybe your tax-free savings, any redeemable GICs, which are also known as term deposits, and any money you have invested that can be sold at any time. So most stocks, also known as shares, most mutual funds, most ETFs, exchange traded funds fall into this category. You can usually sell your portfolio and the transaction is processed in like 2 or 3 business days. However, sometimes you don't want to sell your investments because, like right now, the markets are super down. This is why I recommend a robust, maybe 6-month to 1-year savings account. So that way you can wait for the market to recover and then sell to make your killing. Sidebar, totally unrelated, make sure you shelter as much of your savings inside a tax-free savings account. It's another discussion for another day, but just a little tip. So moving along, we just visited liquid assets. Now we're going to illiquid assets, also called fixed assets. These are the things that can't be traded as easily for cash. So most commonly you think of a house, a vehicle, furniture, art, electronics, jewelry, antiques, maybe an ownership stake of a business, pension plans, retirement savings plans, locked-in GICs, sometimes bonds, and then luxury goods, thinking like wine and boats and planes. None of those things are currently on my net worth statement, but TBD, folks, don't worry. So the beautiful team at the Ontario Securities Commission put together a really, really nice net worth calculator. It's all online, it's all accessible, it's government created, so there's no financial institution affiliation, and it's pretty easy to use. You just kind of fill in the blanks. So let's run through an example. I have absolutely zero imagination, so let's create an individual named Penny, age 34, working full-time with no dependents, living on her own. And let's take a closer look at that net worth calculator. So I'm gonna just share my screen. Share that. Is that coming out okay, Danny? Beautiful. So you've got this net worth calculator. It's all from the website getsmarteraboutmoney.ca. It's one of my favorites. They've got a whole bunch of calculators on this website that are really great and very user-friendly. So let's talk about Penny. Penny is grinding it out until payday comes this Thursday, you guys. There's about 75 bucks left in her checking account. No relation to me whatsoever. So to get her through that bi-weekly salary deposit, she's just got to hold on a little bit longer. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the next couple days aren't so bad. She does have about $3,000 in her savings account, but she doesn't really want to touch that money because it's technically earmarked for her next trip to Europe. And, you know, if let's say the appliances break down in her condo, womp womp, but at least she's got something covered. So scrolling down, Penny does have 2 RSPs, one through work and one from an old job. Right now they total 135,000, although they were at 150,000 at the beginning of the year. So thanks, stock market. But she knows she just got to stay invested and wait out the recession. She's not retiring for another 25 or 30 years, so she can ride out the bumps in the market. Now, Penny doesn't have any investments outside her RSP, so we go to that personal assets section. Penny basically put all the money she owns into buying her very first condo. In Toronto, let's be honest, it was not cheap. Oh, 785. And not a single person that lives in downtown Toronto owns a car. Let's be honest. She rides her bike every day to work. So when we look at the total assets, it's looking very good already. We're at $923,075. But we are going to have to go to the liabilities side. Let's pause for now while I interject with a PSA. I'd be really remiss if I didn't address the subject that nobody ever wants to talk about, which is insurance.
Okay.
Let me frame it this way. You and your ability to work is the biggest asset you will ever own. Your ability to work and have an income stream has got to be protected. We all just went through and we're still going through a pandemic, so you have to make sure you're protecting yourself in the event that you can't work. For whatever reason, you could be sick, you could be injured, you could be starting a family, you might have to take care of a relative, maybe you're in mourning, maybe you want to take a sabbatical. Whatever the reason, you want to make sure your net worth will grow or at least stay stable until you can get back to hustling. So there's a dozen insurance products out there. I'm not licensed to sell insurance, but I can give you general suggestions from the decade plus that I've been in the industry. First things first, please, 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 please take a look at your insurance coverage through work. That is by far the first place to start. Then take a look at maybe you have a life insurance policy, maybe not. It is very hard to imagine, but basically think about what would your family be faced with if something happened to you? I know it's bleak, but you have to really see if your people are covered if you can't be around. Alternatively, what happens if you're disabled and can't work? Would you have enough disability coverage because you're going to be taking care of your living expenses, your debts, and now on top of it, probably medical expenses too. I've personally been there, and the very last thing you want to think about when you're sidelined with a short-term or long-term disability is your finances. I can't stress it enough. It's the last thing I wanted to think about when I went through it. So do the dirty work now, make sure you close all your insurance gaps, and I promise you, you'll sleep better at night. Okay, so PSA over, onto the liability section. Definitely not as much fun as the asset section. So liabilities are your outstanding debts, your credit card balances, your loans, think student loans, car loans, credit lines, mortgages, maybe money you owe your friend for dinner that one time. It all adds up. So let's get back to Penny. She is mortgaged to the hilt because she just bought this property. So I think that works out to something like $680,000. But Penny, Yeah, I think something around there. But she does pay off her credit cards every month. Please, please, please pay off your credit cards every month if you can. Be like Penny. Credit cards are a ripoff if you don't pay them off each and every month. So besides the credit cards, Penny does have a loan for $17,000. So if you don't see the category on the website, there is a little add another liability section. And in this case, it is a personal loan for $17,000. All right, so we've got our total liabilities at $697,000. So when we head over to the next page, here are the results. Penny's estimated worth is about $225,000. So really the calculation is you take all your assets, you subtract all your liabilities, and that's your net worth. Now, I like this calculator because you can also compare your net worth to the rest of Ontario and to the rest of Canada. If you scroll down to the bottom, I'm going to pick Ontario, but you can select any region. I'm going to assume 35 to 49, and I'm going to put in an approximate income of 50,000, let's say. Penny lives by herself, she's working, and we apply. So now you get this lovely graph that shows you your income compared to Ontario income compared to Canadian income, and your net worth compared to Ontario net worth compared to Canadian net worth. And there's a little table that shows where your slice of the pie is compared to the rest of Canada. So Penny's doing pretty good. I would say she's above average. Ideally, you can hold on to these results and see where your net worth goes in the next 6 months, maybe a year. If you see an increase in your net worth, great job, you're on the right track. If you see a decrease in your net worth, it might be a good idea to see where the disconnect is, maybe rework your budget, and try to get back on track for the next pulse check. So in a perfect world, the end goal is to get this net worth nest egg in place for your retirement. I want to make sure that your net worth can support you over the 30 plus years that you've got for senior living. While none of us may make it to the billionaires list, we can always shoot for the moon and land among the stars. So I'd like to open up the floor for questions, or if you'd rather reach out to me directly, I'd love that too. In either case, I hope this presentation will help you take one small step towards financial freedom. And before I forget, everybody have a fantastic long weekend.